Hey, what's up, guys? This is Andre or Chokenator if you know me from my stream. And what I'm going to talk to you today about is how to start selling commissions and earning money as an artist, as a freelance artist. And let me preface this by saying I am not the greatest, most successful freelance artist in the world, but I do have some experience. I've been freelancing for about 3 years, and I do remember very vividly how I got started out because there's quite a story there. I'll get to that in a bit, but I do want to talk. The reason I want to give you this video is because there's a lot of artists out there who are kind of just do art as a hobby and they don't really know where to take it, and a lot of artists who maybe want to be professional, and they think, there's the sort of idea that you kind of have to go to school, maybe that you have to build your skills and build a portfolio or build a reel and then submit those reels to get into the industry from a studio. And that's not always the only way, or it's definitely not the only way to start a career in art. You can do it in sort of a DIY, at home way nowadays, especially with the internet. And you can do that by selling commissions. All business is based on selling something, selling a product, selling a service. And for artists, basically your product is the art that you make, whether it's a drawing, an animation, or a sculpture. But you just got to sell something, and there's a lot of ways to do that. You remember, like I said, one way is to get into a studio and sell your services to a big studio, and they'll pay you per hour, or pay you salary, or whatever. Or you can just give the service to your friends and family on a very small scale, and then they can pay you a little bit. That's a good way to get started, and it'll teach you sort of how the industry works also. But anyway, the first step really is to assess your skill set, because what are you going to sell? You're going to sell based on your skill set. So I have a little blank canvas here for me to write with, to write on. And who am I? I am Chokenator, right? My name's Andre or Chokenator if you know me from my stream. That's what I always say at the beginning of every stream. I made up that name a long time ago. There's another story to that name that we don't need to get into. Anyway, what is my skill set? So I went to art school for a few years and studied animation, and so I know how to draw, I know how to animate. I have some life drawing skills, which is pretty tough to learn. It takes a long time to learn, so that's a pretty good skill to have, especially in art, because human beings are so recognizable that if something's off or wrong, it's pretty easy to tell. What else do I do? I do have a decent character design skills. Oops. So those are my skills. Pretty basic. I know probably a lot of you have these skills. Maybe some of you know how to paint. That's definitely not a skill I have. Some of you know how to sculpt. Some of you know video editing. Even that's a type of art. Some of you, can knit. Anyway, there's so many skills that all of us artists have, and there's a way to sell it. So after you've assessed your skill set, obviously that's not enough. You have to sell something to someone. So sell to the market. That's who we sell to. Now for us artists, who is our market? Now for most of us who are on the sort of the freelance level, it's not going to be big studios. And the easiest way to start is with people you know. These are going to be your friends, family. These are people who want to, hopefully these are people who want to support you. If at least find the people who do among your friends and family, the ones who want to support your career as an artist, your dreams and big dreams. For those of you who already have started this, it's going to be your social media following, like your Instagrams, your YouTubes, Discord, Twitter, whatever. Also communities like DeviantArt. And some of their communities could be really specialized. For example, furry art, that could be an example, right? I'm not judging any furries out there. I think if you are in a community where a lot of people will buy your furry art, that's really awesome. Or it could be things like designing cars or designing interior design, whatever it is. For me, it's, I want to do anime and comics, so a lot of my drawing skills are based on that. So a lot of my friends, which is probably when I first started out freelancing 3 years ago, I did have, quite a bit of friends from the Super Smash Brothers community, right? So I used to play in a lot of tournaments, and a lot of my friends were part of the Smash community, and for me, that was my first market. So how did I sell? I basically, when I first, how did I reach out to my market? When I first started reaching out to people and deciding I wanted to freelance, I just made a Facebook status. For you, it could be a tweet or something, or even just telling people with your mouth verbally that you're starting to sell art. So I made a Facebook status saying, "Hey guys, I'm gonna start doing commissions," and a lot of them asked like about pricing, and so I was super inexperienced at that time, and I think pricing is a good thing we can discuss. So I'm gonna draw arrow down here. Pricing question mark, because that can be sort of a question mark for a lot of us. Now there's a couple ways to do this, and what most people do, which I think is I think an okay way of doing it is kind of guessing like how much you think it's worth based on the amount of effort and based on your skills. So if you think your art is worth, you could say, I want to make, or I want to earn this much per hour with my art, or I want to earn this much per piece. You can do your pricing based on that, based on how much effort it'll take you and how much you want to earn for the time spent, and how much you think you deserve to earn based on your skill set. And you kind of guess, one basic example is when a freelance artist like me would come up and they want to do character drawings, maybe people's OCs, their original characters, or just portraits of people, or fantasy portraits of your real life friends, something like that. And you say, okay, if I'm going to do just your face, it's $10, your bust is $15, from your head to your waist is $30, or maybe your full body $50, or maybe you can add more value for if you want to add color, or if you want to add in more characters. Then you can eventually, people will be like, oh, I love your art, I want to get an illustration for like $70-$80 with like several characters and a lot of color and a background and all that stuff. All that is valuable time and effort put into a piece that you want to make as beautiful as possible, and something that will be worthwhile to the person buying. Now that's one way to do it, but I think there is an even, I don't want to say smarter, but I think a more scientific way to do it, a more economic way to do it, and that's using the supply and demand curve. And that's actually how I started out, because I did think that my art was worth something, but because I had never done any freelance before, I wanted to start like totally from scratch. So what I basically did is I said, name your price. I'm gonna do these first commissions that I'm ever doing for as cheap as possible. And I do want to draw the supply and demand curve real quick. And I don't want to get too deep into the nitty-gritty of supply and demand. You can probably look up some economics videos on how to understand it. But this is price, quantity, and this is supply, which I'm going to say is S, and demand, which I'm going to say is D. Again, I don't want to get super into the nitty-gritty about this, but basically how it worked for me was that I thought that if my price is really low, like here, set a really low baseline price, then the demand will be really high, and it worked. I said, name your price, and I said, $1, $5, $10, I'll do a drawing for you. And I do want to show you like the very first commission I ever did. It's this here. It's actually the Duck Hunt dog from Super Smash Bros. My friend from the Smash community, he was a Duck Hunt player, and he's like, hey, can you draw Duck Hunt? And I said, hey, do you want it colored? Do you want anything else in it? And he told me, I want the gunman in there, and yeah, I want it colored. So I was like, okay, $15, which is probably way underpriced, but I sold something. And this probably took me a few hours back then, which is probably not worth the time. But I can probably do it much faster now. But anyway, what's important to me, the only thing that was important to me at the time, was that I earned something. I made art, I sold it, and I earned some money. And that is maybe not quote unquote professional, but at that point you're in the market. Your first sale, that you're in the market. And from then on, you just keep repeating that process, and it's trial and error. It's like, okay, maybe I should raise my prices. Maybe I should learn how to draw faster. Maybe I should increase my skills before I start selling more. Maybe I should practice more. Things like that. It's going to be a trial and error process, and you're going to learn how to do this thing better and better. And now if you get a ton of requests and the demand gets higher, you kind of want to raise the price so that you keep up with the demand, right? And that's kind of what I do nowadays. My prices have gone up and up since then. I do a lot more animations. I do a lot more detailed illustrations. And maybe in another video I can go over a lot of the freelance work that I've done in the past 3 years if you're curious about it. Now, I do want to talk about, I've basically given you the basic gist of how to get started, but we can get even deeper. For those of you who have already started freelancing, or maybe if you're going to start because of this video and you want to know how to like increase your demand, because even for me that's a pretty big problem, right? Or a pretty big task. There are I looked up supply and demand a little bit, and there are some things that you can actually shift, some things that will actually shift demand, and those are called demand shifters. And there are 6 of them that I looked up online. Maybe there are more, but those are tastes or preferences. And again, these are going to be based on the communities you're a part of, or even your own tastes, that you want to draw like anime characters, or you want to draw horses, right? Let's say your taste is in horses, and then your market's going to be people who love horse art, right? Also, another thing that will shift your demand is the number of consumers. So if you have a ton of friends and family who support your art, they're probably going to be the ones who want to buy from you. If there's not a lot of them, maybe you can look online and try to find communities of people who want that kind of art. So basically, this is the reason artists want more Instagram followers, right? Not only for their art to be visible to more people, but the more people your art is visible to, the more people might want some. So for freelancers, it's good to have a big following. Again, it's not necessary because maybe you have a niche, but it's good to have a pretty decent following, because then more people will see your art and maybe they'll fall in love with it. Another shifter of demand is consumer income. So if a lot of your friends and family are not willing to spend a lot on art, then you might want to make your prices a little bit lower, because the demand will be lower, right? The demand will be lower not only based on how much they want your art, but based on how much they're willing to spend on your art, right? So the other shifters are the price of compliments. Compliments, those are things that kind of coincide with your art. Now, for me, one of my niche is, well, to explain this one of my niches is doing animation for Twitch streamers. That's like one of my specialties, and that's been sort of my main product going on for the past couple of years. And because demand has increased and there's a lot of streamers out there, there's a lot more streamers wanting animation for their stream. So a compliment would be something like a streamer, and then other people subscribing to those streamers, and streamers wanting those to have the best stream, right? So that's basically a compliment for me, is the streamers out there who want to support my animation and I want to support their streams. So if their value goes up, so does mine. And the price of substitutes, basically in the art world, this is like your competitors, people who do the same art as you and maybe do it better or do it worse, or basically people who are offering the same service as you, and other people are going to think, oh, if your prices are too high, maybe I can find another artist whose prices are more reasonable. And a lot of artists, I think, are entitled because they think, oh, you don't want to buy my art at my price. Well, you're just saying artists are not worth anything. That's not necessarily true, because the market is based on what people value. And you can't necessarily judge people or be hostile towards people who don't really value your art. You just have to find the people that do. Or maybe your art is not as valuable as you think. That could be a possibility too. And I think we need to be humble and accept that. Right? Or if you want to increase the value of your art, just get better, get good. That's like one of the things that we all need to do as artists, is continue improving. The other thing that is a shifter of demand are expectations. Now, this usually means like ways that the market will change in the future. And for example, if Twitch ever goes, let's say Twitch gets too saturated, or there's a bunch of animators find my niche and they start doing the same thing that I'm doing, then I expect that market will get worse for me, and I'm going to have to start putting my time and effort somewhere else. Expectations basically means changes in the market that you foresee in the future that you might have to adjust your product to. So anyway, I kind of got deep into it at the end right there with supply and demand and pricing. But basically, going back to the beginning here, this is basically the flowchart or process that you can use if you want to start freelancing. But at the end of the day, it goes back to this: selling something. That's what you have to do as an artist. And If you do the standard route of like building a reel and building a portfolio and getting into a company or a studio, more power to you. But for me, I really don't like having a boss. I like being my own boss, and I really enjoy freelancing because of the freedom I have. Sometimes I don't feel like I have total creative freedom, but for the most part, I do. Not only freedom creatively, but freedom with my time and stuff like that. So I hope this helped you, and I hope this will maybe encourage you who are still budding artists to get into the field, to get into it. Because I think with the internet today, and the number of resources you have in your phones and your computers. I mean, if you're watching this on YouTube, you have either a phone or a computer, right? Or maybe you're just watching this in a public place. I don't know. But you have the resources to reach people with your art. And I really want to support all artists. I think we should all be rising up, and we should all start entering the market together and competing with each other and putting the best art out there. And it will only make us better. And it would also get us paid. So yeah, getting paid is really good. All right, I hope that helps you. I love you all. And if there's any questions you have of this video or any comments you have, if you think this was bad, if you think I can improve on something, let me know. And that's all. We'll see you guys later. Peace out.